Okay, it is October 1st, 2019, and I decided that I would attempt to, just because I know nobody's listening, and I'm 39, I turned 39 in September 24th, and as I've mentioned before, I am dealing with the side effects that come with getting older. The whole midlife crisis thing is very real, depending on what you have made of your life when you reach the middle. Anyways, I decided I would attempt to start from the beginning, just in case, God forbid, something happens to me. And by some long stretch of the imagination, someone is looking to inquire about anything about me. And that just saying that out loud is highlights the issues in my life a little bit, because part of the issue in my life right now is that if I were to be killed tomorrow, I don't have many people that would dig into my existence to find more about my life while I was here. And losing Rachel has made me appreciate that is a dynamic that exists. Try to imagine this. For most of you, you will have immediate people that you know will perhaps dig into your life. But try to imagine yourself gone. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Terrible podcast audios already, but try to imagine yourself gone tomorrow. And who in your life do you think would really dig into your things, would really dig into your, nowadays it would be your phone recordings, your notes, things like that. Would you want someone to dig into those notes, recordings? If you have a journal, would you want somebody reading that journal? Because, and here's the thing, you would assume that if you were gone tomorrow, people would dig into that stuff. That's not the case, because the people closest to you will be dealing with the loss. And when you're dealing with heavy grief, the people that you'd imagine would go through your things sometimes don't, because it's too painful. Even looking at pictures of Rachel, which of course I do all the time, but I could see that you have to compartmentalize those things. So you have to be prepared to do that digging if you are going to dig, and it is taxing. It's taxing to go through Rachel's things. It can be mentally taxing because it's such a heavy loss. So when you are going through those things, you put yourself into that mental space where you have to be prepared to be, go on an emotional roller coaster ride. So, but imagine yourself being gone tomorrow, and who would dig into your things, and how important was your life? If you have children, your life, that's the most important. Then you know for sure there is somebody who is going to forever have questions about you. And forever revere you. So I do think having children is a very good measure for success in this life. Because I think, we all say success is defined by is in the eye of the beholder. It's if you success professionally, career-wise, depending on what you do, is usually not very important in the end. Success to me is your family and how the people you've left behind and the lessons and the morals and values that you've left behind in this world. And if your career is not something that involves building something, whether it be building systems, building ideas, creating. There's so many jobs nowadays that are the service industry where you're not making anything. You're providing a service, or you're, for me personally in the food industry, you're making food. The product that you work so hard to create is gone within minutes. Once the final product is done, it's on a plate and then it's gone in minutes. So that's one of the issues I have with cooking. But have you built anything? Have you created anything? Those are, it's not as big a deal as what you've left behind, values and moral-wise with your family. But I think that's part of my crisis now. Is the things that are important after you're gone are the kind of person you were, obviously, the way you treated people. I think you can measure your success pretty accurately by observing your surroundings when you walk into a room filled with people, whether it's walking into work or walking into your living room or walking into your bar, your familiar bar, or wherever. Take a minute to observe the way people react when you walk in the room. Are they generally happy to see you and excited? Are they indifferent, or do they become anxious and stressed? I mean, it's a good measure for what kind of person you are, is gauging the reaction of other people when you walk into a room. And I'm realizing that after you're gone, the only tangible things that are in my mind that are important are things you've created with your own hands. The things I cherish the most are things that Rachel made with her own hands. Their value increases. Just like an old painter who didn't receive much recognition until they were gone, and their paintings increase in value when they're gone. It's a real dynamic. So the things that she touched and created and made, whether art or words she's written down, those are the things that are special. And let's say you were a maker of things. Maybe jewelry, or you had a hobby and you made things and you sent them to people or gave them as gifts. And when you are gone, they will, if they have put those gifts aside, they will look for those gifts. They will remember that you made them something, and they will look for them, and they will hold it, and they will think about your hands touching them, and they will become invaluable. So after Rachel died, I started unconsciously. I started making things a lot. I started giving things away for free a lot that I've made, and I've spread out when I go over all the things that I've made for people. I've never charged anybody anything. This is just recently. I started to post belts for sale on Facebook, and I sold 2. Just because I want to keep making things, and I feel like I've gotten to a point where I can make a product that's gonna last, and a product that's of higher quality than something you could buy for a similar price tag in a store. So, but the things that I've made after Rachel died, man, and the amount that I've given away is just, I I feel good about that, and it makes me feel good to give those things away. Carving a spoon, giving it away, someone might lose it, put it aside, maybe use it, maybe not, but those things are important once somebody's gone. So if I were to die tomorrow, I have plenty of people who have, whether prints when I was in college and I made these prints, relief prints or lithography. I've given tons of those away. And I know some people have hung them and put them up on their wall. And that's, I gave lots of those away in the past. So I think I've always been someone who makes things. But after Rachel died, I gave a lot of spoons away. I started carving wooden spoons, and I gave lots away. My mother, my sister, my cousins, my mother's friends. Plenty of my friends have things I've made by hand. Strops. I've given, lots of things away. And then I started, with the leather stuff, and then I've given lots of leather away. So I feel like I've spread out I've spread things out enough where if I were to die, I would have some people who have things that I've made by hand. And my apartment is filled with things I've made by hand. So what I was trying to attempt here is to catalog my life and growing up. And I think my first memories were of Jay Bonavita. The first things that really I remember the most are, my memory began heavily when Jay Bonavita arrived in my life. He was my best friend growing up. And I think if I were more active, he would still be my closest best friend. I still consider him a best friend, but we don't see each other much at all, very often. He was the typical quintessential best friend growing up. He was as good a friend as anyone could ever imagine. I remember the first day I met him. He had just moved to town, and I think he was from Springfield or something, but he was very short. He's like a small guy. And the color blue. Like when I think about first meeting Jay, I think of the color blue because he was in one of my classrooms. And it was blue. The walls were blue. So Jay Bonavita, blue, yeah. Weird. His mom used to say Blue Jay or something. I don't know. I remember first meeting him in class, and I remember, I don't know, he's one of the most charismatic people I know, so he made friends so easily. He was just, people gravitated towards Jay. He was very outgoing and funny and just a charismatic person. We made friends quick and invited him over for dinner, or he invited me over to his house for dinner. I remember the first time eating at his house and being blown away because everyone knew that eating at a friend's house, the best place was Bonavita's house because his mom was such a good cook. She cooked very traditional Italian meals, and she was fantastic. And meeting his mom was probably just as important as meeting him, because his mom was a big part of my childhood. She was like everybody's second mom, because Jay's house had such an open door policy. Everyone was welcome. You always felt comfortable, and she wasn't extremely strict, but she was very good. She was a very good mom. So his house was very warm, and there was always good food and Italian. It smelled a certain way, and his mom was so friendly and cool, and his father was, a little different. His father was very quiet, but when I think of his dad, Mr. Bonavita, who's since passed away.